All right, let's call the June 12th, 2026 Audit Committee to order. Start with introductions and let's start with Megan on that side there.
Yeah, Megan Hilliard, Performance Auditor with Deschutes County.
Welcome.
I'm Elizabeth Kate, County Internal Auditor.
Patty Jared, Deschutes County Commissioner.
Daryl Parrish, Public Member.
Joe Healy, Public Member.
Public Member.
Randall, Facilities Department, Deschutes County Facilities Department Director and Management Member.
Bill Kuhn, Deschutes County Treasurer. Robert Pinto, Chief Financial Officer. Nick Levi, County Administrator.
Dave in the back there.
Steve Doyle, County Attorney.
And on Zoom.
Jody Birch, Public Member.
Steve Dennison, Deschutes County Clerk, elected member.
Susan DeJody, HR Director.
See Amanda there with
Kevin Muller-Lively, a director with Baker Tilly.
Amanda Moore, Principal with Baker Tilly.
All right, I'm assuming that's everyone. Okay, welcome all. Let's move on. Review approved minutes from the April 17th, 2026 meeting. Comments, suggestions, questions, additions, deletions, objections. I will be abstaining. I was not at the meeting. I have a motion to approve.
I make the motion to approve.
Motion by Joe Healy. A second. Ricketts.
I'll second.
And we have a second for Jody. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor say, I hear no nays, one abstention, that'd be me. All right, that's it for the minutes are approved. Let's move on to special topics. External audit work plan for fiscal year 2027. Baker Tilly. Elizabeth wants to lead on with anything.
No, please go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen. And then let me know if that comes through okay for you. Is that looking good?
Seeing it, yep.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for having us here today. As I mentioned, I'm Amanda Moore. I'm a principal with Baker Tilly, and we are here today to present our audit plan for the 2026 audits of Deschutes County. So just wanted to start with your service team. Clearly, Kevin and I are here today to go through this presentation with you and talk about the plan for 2026. We have quite a few other members that are part of our audit team, but this is essentially your management team from our side. The person I wanted to mention here on the slide that's not here with us today is Ashley Austin. She is a principal with Baker Tilly as well. She works out of our Portland location and works on state and local governments with Kevin and I quite a bit. And she is our concurring reviewer. So you won't see her on the day-to-day operations of the audit. She is essentially an independent reviewer from us. So she's not looking at all the details that Kevin and I are going to look at as part of the audit, and really gives an independent or external type perspective. She'll review some of our planning documents as well as your financial statements at year end and our audit reports. But we utilize that additional layer at Baker Tilly just to make sure that we have somebody that's not all the way in the details to kind of do a overview of the financial statements. So we're here today to meet with you to talk about the audit plan. We do meet with you twice a year. We talk at the beginning, and then once we've completed our audits, we'll do an exit presentation. So this kind of this slide talks about the different items that we communicate in each one of those meetings. So for our entrance, we'll talk about our responsibilities under the auditing standards that we follow, which are the U.S. generally accepted auditing standards, and then go through our plan, scope, and timing of the audit. As you'll see on the slide there's a number of other items that we'll go through in our exit, but really here just to talk about the plan today. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Kevin.
Thanks, Amanda. So our responsibility is really to assess the county's financial statements that the finance department prepares with the oversight of commissioners to make sure that they meet U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. What we'll do is we will follow various standards, generally accepted auditing standards that the AICPA puts out. Amanda mentioned that. We'll also follow governmental auditing standards that's issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. It adds some additional layers that general accepted auditing standards don't have. A particular one requires that Amanda, myself, other team members have have additional training known as CPE that we get during the year that's specific to auditing governments. Other standards include Oregon minimum standards. So there's a number of state statutes that say what a county must follow, things like budget law, procurement. So we will test compliance there. And then also for the federal awards that the county receives during the year, we will perform an audit of the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, selecting major programs for testing compliance, and we'll follow the OMB's uniform guidance when performing testing there. So a lot of standards we will follow. We're going to design our audit to make sure that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. And if they are free, then we'll likely issue an unmodified opinion. If there are issues, we would need to modify our report. Our reporting will also consider internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. Those could be matters we report in our government auditing standards report or our compliance report on uniform guidance. And then as Amanda said on the last slide, there's a number of things that we will communicate to you at the end of the engagement when we have the exit meeting, things like were there any audit adjustments, were there any disagreements with management, anything like that will be communicated at that point. On to the next slide is touching on our audit process. It's kind of in three buckets. The first one is our consideration of internal controls. We can do this really at any point during the year, but typically for the county, we do it a little bit after fiscal year end wraps up. And what we do is we come out on site and we look at internal controls. Now we've audited the county for several years now, so we have a good understanding of how internal controls are designed and operated. I had a city client just ask me if we can rotate some of this work. So take a year off of, say, performing walkthroughs over payroll. And I said, unfortunately, we cannot. Really, the point of these walkthroughs is to get in there and make sure that our understanding is the same as it was last year, to identify if anything has changed since last year. So we'll go through and do those with all the key accounting cycles, things like payments to vendors, collection of property taxes, revenue over intergovernmental grants, things like that. And those control tests will also consider the county's IT systems. So the main finance systems that produce the financial statements and all the transactions that happen during the year, we will perform IT general controls to understand that there's adequate review, there's appropriate segregation of duties. Those types of checks and balances are in place for IT as well. The second part of the audit is once the county has closed its year-end balances, we'll come back out and we'll perform what we call final field work. This is where we'll do substantive testing. The first type would be analytical procedures. Often do these with revenues or expenses where we develop an expectation based on certain inputs that we know, and we come up with what we think the balance is, and then we'll compare what the county says the balance is. If we're off, we'll need to do some additional testing to get comfortable with why there's a difference. The other type is test of details. That might be what you think an auditor's doing, looking at invoices, cash receipts, bank recs, things like that. But it also includes inquiries we'll make, such as reaching out to county counsel to understand if there's legal matters that the county should be recording as liabilities or disclosing in the financial statements. Looking at actuarial reports, which are used for some of the big estimates in the county's financial statements. And all of that will happen later on during final field work. A lot of our testing is driven by materiality, which is on the next slide. And we'll come up with materiality first and foremost by looking at the county's balances for things like assets, revenues, expenditures, maybe fund balance, generally applying a percentage to that. And then that will tell us what is material for the opinion unit we're ultimately giving an opinion on. Example would be the general fund. Our audit report includes an opinion on the general fund. The same is true for all your major funds, and then there's some other opinion units that are aggregated as one. But we will also consider qualitative factors. As an example, maybe we find an immaterial error, but if that error was corrected, all of a sudden that fund would have an over expenditure, which would be a state non-compliance matter. So I'm not saying that we would automatically say it needs to be adjusted, but that is something that we would want to consider. So we don't just blindly look at these as what's immaterial based on the numbers. Fraud is another important item that we consider in our audit. And the audit standards say that we need to do additional work to improve the likelihood that we'll detect material misstatements due to fraud in the county's financial statements. So there's a number of items we're required to do. The first being a brainstorming meeting with our engagement team. So that's where Amanda and myself will get together with everyone that's scheduled on the team. And we'll think about various things. What we saw in the county's audit last year, what we've seen in the interim work we've already performed for other counties FY26. Amanda and I just were doing that on a county in Oregon last week. We'll also be sure to meet with some of you and other members, other officials at the county to see if there's any concerns where they have, maybe they think there's a control that's failing to detect a financial issue and something we should look into. Maybe someone's concerned that there's an county employee perhaps living outside of their means, what you would expect, and we should consider that in our audit work. So we'll reach out and have those sorts of discussions. We'll consider certainly all the internal control testing when we're designing our audit plan and seeing if there's any fraud risk there. And then any unusual balances, something that looks odd compared to last year, something that's new, maybe something we're expecting to change that hasn't changed. Those are all factors we'll consider. And then audit standards also say we should consider general journal entries. That's a way management can misstate financial statements to hide fraud. Revenue recognition, kind of a bigger issue in commercial entities, right, where they want to increase revenues to make the bottom line look great, but still, for a governmental audit, we're still obligated to consider revenue recognition as it relates to a fraud risk. We'll consider estimates, biases, for balances in the financial statements, and then other unusual things that we see. And then I think the next slide is the final one I'm going to talk on. Just what's the timing of all this audit work? So after we meet with you today, our next big point in the audit is to come out the week of August 17th to be on site to test internal controls, do those walkthrough procedures. And then we'll be back in October. That's going to be October 19th, and we have 3 consecutive weeks scheduled to test the year-end balances. Now, that's not just for the county. That's also for the county's blended component unit financial statements. I will add that there's one of those we don't need to audit this year. That's the road agency fund. I believe we audited that component unit the last 3 years. And for FY26, it does not have any expenditures. So I think with the state, the county just needs to file a in lieu of audit report, which is just a little bit of paperwork and probably a small fee. Also, during those 3 weeks, we'll be testing major programs as part of the single audit. So that'll be more work that we're doing there in that time frame. And then what we understand is the county is going to give us their first draft of the ACFR on November 2nd. So we'll spend the first part of November reviewing that, providing feedback to the county to make any changes. And then we're scheduled to issue our county audit reports on December 1st. One thing that we did differently last year was we waited about 10 days to issue audit reports on the blended component unit audits the county has. It's just an awful lot to get done all on one day. So I think both parties decided, let's just say up front, we'll issue the component unit audits on December 10th. And then finally, we're scheduled to meet back with this audit committee on December 11th to go over the audit results. So that's really kind of how this year shapes up. And I'll turn it back to Amanda.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm going to take us just through a quick accounting update, what you might expect for the next couple years. So for this fiscal year under audit for this year, fiscal year 2026, the county will have 2 new accounting standards to adopt. The first one is GASB 103 on financial reporting model improvements. So this one, there's actually a number of changes that came out of this specific accounting standard. There's going to be some changes to the MD&A, really how it looks and some of the requirements that are reported within the MD&A. So that's something that you definitely want to take a look at sooner than later. There are examples available out there. The GFOA has already updated their example ACFR to kind of show the new layout and requirements of the MD&A, some terminology changes there. As well as there'll be some changes to your proprietary statement of changes out of GASB 103. It introduced this terminology of subsidies and should be pulling those out of your revenues and reporting those separately. And then there was the last major change that came out of this GASB is the reporting of your budget to actuals. So historically, a government could report their budget to actuals for their general fund and major special revenue funds as either statements within the financial statements or required supplementary information. It took away that option to report them as statements, so they're required to be reported as required supplementary information now. And in addition to that, there'll be a new column that gets added to your budget to actuals, which calculates the change in from original to final budget. So that'll be applicable for this fiscal year. The next one, GASB 104, is also applicable this year, related to disclosures of certain capital assets. And this standard is really going to just be focused in your note disclosures and making sure that all of your capital assets are reported properly in one note disclosure. And this came out of a lot of the new assets that are required related to lease assets subscription-based IT arrangements, assets, or if you have any public-private partnerships or that reported assets, and getting them all included in your capital asset note. The additional caveat there is related to if you have property held for sale. So if you have capital assets that you're depreciating and you're no longer utilizing those assets, those under this standard are required to be broken out on the roll forward for your capital asset note and reported separately. So that's, I guess, probably for you would be the one change if you had any of those assets to report, and you just pull those out to present them separately. The last one is GASB 105 on subsequent events. So this is not applicable till fiscal year 2027, unless you early adopt, which is an option. And under the standard, you are required to evaluate subsequent events through 1 year of through the reporting date, so the date or the audit date. So this will require you to update your note disclosure to say that we've evaluated them through this certain date, which should agree to the opinion of of our audit report. So this really is kind of a modernization or alignment with the FASB. The FASB's required this for some time. You're always required to update subsequent events and report any subsequent events in your note disclosures. And this standard is really meant to just kind of solidify the requirements around that and really documenting that date through which you evaluated your subsequent events. And that is all that's on the table right now as far as new accounting standards. But with that, just want to thank you for having us here today and presenting our plan to you. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Amanda? Keith? No?
I don't have any questions,
Yeah.
but just from the county's perspective, thought I'd provide a couple comments. Kevin earlier mentioned about revenues. Really, we're not at risk as far as overstating revenues like a private sector business, maybe. However, we have had, we have to be mindful of our grant revenue in particular. If we get revenue in advance, whether it's earned or unearned, when we defer that revenue. So that's an item that we have to look at a lot because that has been an area of concern. Make sure we get revenues recorded in the right period. So and they look a lot at that to make sure we do it right, but our staff spends a lot of time on that as well. And we do already have the dates notified. We let departments know and that the dates when the auditors will be here, because they spend time with us in finance, but they also request a lot of work out from departments. And so we want our departments to be responsive to their requests when they're asked for documentations and have questions. So we already have that out there. And just as Amanda talked about the new GASBs coming out, just rest assured, the GASB 103 that talks about the MD&A, we've already started modeling our new MD&A, putting language in there. Our columns on the budget to actual, it seems like it's an easy thing, you add a column, but we have, I'll say hundreds of spreadsheets, but it's probably not hundreds, but it's a lot of spreadsheets and using a new software. So it just takes pre-work. So we've been pre-working on these items that we can in preparation for all this. And capital assets, of course, that's making sure we have all those note disclosures. So we appreciate all the heads up from the auditors and support. And whenever we have questions, they're great responding and providing guidance when we need it. And so, we try to do as much prep work as we can because, November 1st or December 1st for the issuance, but our first draft, November 2nd, that comes a lot sooner than you think because it's a tremendous amount of work. And so kudos to our accounting team, Jenna Kane, and our accountants and all staff and throughout the county. It's a tremendous amount of work and they do a great job. So I just want to let the committee be aware of the work we do to meet these standards.
Robert, thanks for that. It does seem like the outcome of all that is good in the end.
Yeah.
Past years. Come out really well. Anything else? Okay. Kevin, Amanda, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh. Okay, and then the next item we have is Baker Tilly contract options. That's Elizabeth.
So Baker Tilly had a 5-year contract. We're coming up on their last year. So this one that they discussed with us is going to be the last audit under this contract. So we have a decision to make over whether we want to extend the contract for 1 year, or do we want to go out and request proposals for a new contract? So, yes, and then I discussed this with Baker Tilly. They are open to extending the contract, but they did come back with some extra price increases if they were to extend the contract. So those are related to two things. The first is that when the contract started, the county's opinion was that agreed upon procedures was included in our RFP and in our contract. Baker Tilly felt that, or Moss Adams at the time, that those agreed upon procedures were not. And so when we asked them to do it, they asked to get some more money, and then we went back and forth with them and eventually decided that they wouldn't. So for all of these, for all the years of the contract, those agreed upon procedures have been included in the base price. But they bring it up occasionally, and at this opportunity said, it really does cost us an extra $4,000 a year. So if we were to extend the contract, we would want to charge an extra $4,000 for those agreed upon procedures. The other issue that they've been talking to me about is it doesn't have to do with the county, but it has to do with the service districts. So there are 3 service districts who ride on our contract, and that's Sun River Security District, Black Butte Ranch Security District, and the Central Oregon Law Enforcement District, which is the partnership of law enforcement here, where they do sort of bigger regional criminal investigations. So that includes our sheriff's office and Bend Police and Redmond Police, but it's administered through our sheriff's office. All 3 of those agencies have had issues at times preparing their financial statements, which Baker Tilly says has caused them extra work. So they want to increase the overall fee to cover those expenses as well. So they gave us 2 proposals, one with the same, but the effect is the same overall. So the price is the same to them, either way we choose. And I guess in that case, it's not really their choice, it's our choice. We can either have just the $4,000 for agreed upon procedures applied to the county, plus the standard 3% a year increase, which will lead to about an 8% increase for the county. And then a lower increase, or that would be a higher increase to the districts, because they, let's see, where am I? Yes, that's the first one. No, that's the second one.
The districts will pay more in option B.
In option B, the districts pay more. All that extra amount is allocated to them. I reached out to all the districts, and they, so I reached out to Robert and Nick, and I suggested option B. And then I reached out to all the districts as well with both options. They were less excited about option B, but said that they understood. So not getting any opposition from them either. So it seemed we could go with option B. But there is a third option, which is to just do a new request for proposals and say, notify Baker Tilly that we'll be looking, we'll open up to new contractor next year, and they would be welcome to apply to that as well. But Kristen's making a face because
I mean, mainly for you. I'm just it's hard.
And there also is not a ton of competition.
No, there is
Nothing.
There is very, you would attract more than a lot of you might get 2 instead of just 1.
We got 2 proposals last.
Yeah, you might get 2. I was fortunate to get 1 and lock them down. But that's it's just, there's not a lot of government entities here in Oregon that are,
It's very specialized and very
hard.
focused governmental accounting, and there's not a lot of profit in it for
No.
accounting firms. So, and it's a lot of work.
I should also add that we've been happy with the staff. They've worked well with us. They've responded.
It's 3 years, isn't it? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 4 at most.
This is we're coming into
This is the 5th year.
Is that right? Wow,
Believe it or not.
it's gone by really fast.
Another comment, and because Elizabeth, I don't know if I mentioned this too, but so the $4,000 for the additional fee for the agreed upon procedures, we do 2 agreed upon procedures, one for the solid waste financial assurance, it's required, and then also one for the STIF, State Transportation
investment.
Fund. Thank you. But the legislature just passed a law that allows that funding to go directly to an organization like COIC. I think it was, that law was specific for them. So eventually that money, instead of flowing through us, will go directly to them. And so we don't have to be that pass through to be audited. So we may not need that financial. I mean, I don't know which year that'll actually start, but I just want to flag that for you. So it could be half. We end up paying only for one agreed upon procedure at some point. I don't know if it'll be by the fiscal year 27 year, but it's definitely like something.
Maybe that's something if we do go with an extension, we can itemize the agreed upon procedures.
That recommendation sounds reasonable, especially, made the face to
You know, reason for option C.
Yeah.
I'd support option B.
I support option B.
and I understand, I'm glad you called them, but if they're causing more work, by
Get ready.
pay for it. But I like option B. Make things a little challenging.
Anything else? Anybody comments contrary to that?
Is Cole actually caught up? I know they've had like
Yes.
consistent issues.
I think they are.
They are.
And moving forward, actually, Robert.
They are caught up.
Good. That's great to know.
So do we need a motion to an approval of option B?
I move to approve option B.
I'll second it.
Motion second to approve option B. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, option B will do.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, audit committee roles and responsibilities discussion. Let me kick that off. I think our roles and responsibilities are defined fairly clearly under section 2.15040. I think section C, part F, regarding our internal auditor performance review should be updated to reflect the current procedure, which is essentially performed by a subcommittee of the audit committee, input from the county administrator. With regards to the audit committee's involvement in the planning of audits, what we do is do that at a very high level and approve the work plan, not get involved in setting individual scopes of audits, not getting involved in the weeds, so to speak, but just to approve the work plan at a very high level.
Yeah, I mean,
So I don't know if there's any comments or anything else we need.
yeah, I know in the code, the proposed code changes, the scope. So so keeping the audit committee at a level where it's finding the work plan, but not getting too much into the scope, I guess is important.
We're trying not to do that. If we are doing that, we certainly need to know if we are.
I mean, I feel the audit scope is to be developed by a trained professional auditor. And I was a long time ago, I would have to refresh even to like think about or feel comfortable manipulating the scope. So, and we're discussing the code changes that are in the packet.
Yeah, that's actually the next time, but we can roll them together. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to. It's not our role.
Yeah. It's not. Don't anything from anyone else. Regarding the proposed code changes, I've been pretty clear on, I particularly like the code the way it is. But what I would request or ask for, provide before any proposed changes are brought forward, that we provide time for the subcommittee that was tasked with meeting with department heads and other officials to finish its work. We've met with department heads, we've met with other officials. We're in the process of putting together a report. We want to meet with Elizabeth, we want to meet with the administration. And at some point in time, once we've done that, submit something to the audit committee as a whole. But that would be my request.
Mine also as part of the subcommittee of the committee.
Just had our last meeting last week, so still, kind of in the process of tying that all together. We'll be doing that in the next couple of weeks. So
I think it would be great because excuse me, if I come off as an auditor, I want to know what's the evidence bringing about each of these changes, like what, so that way we know we're getting to the root cause, so we're doing the right changes to fix that root cause. And I just haven't, I don't know what the evidence is of that required these changes. I like we just got the changes, so I would love to hear what the subcommittee dug into and what you all.
So as far as getting into the discussion of what parts of the code we like and we don't like at this meeting, I'd rather not do that, or rather wait for that to happen at a later date. So that's just really all I have on that front right now. So any questions, comments, or concerns, or issues, or problems? Happy to hear them. Okay, anything else? Audit plan, work plan midterm updates.
So, as you all know, we do a 2-year audit plan. And so this is the off year of that 2-year plan. We did a big plan last year, but this is just a presentation to kind of do a status update with you all of where we are with the plan and to talk about if there needs to be any changes to the plan. So in the last 12 months, we completed 2 audits. That would be the sheriff's office body and auto camera audit and the clerk's office election audit. We have 2 audits in process as well. That's the one on houselessness and the courthouse expansion, the construction phase audit. This is how much is remaining on our list. So you can see we did 2 audits last year. We have 2 in process. We have 9 for the next month. So they are human resources, recruitment and retention, information technology, integrated audit, solid waste, integrated audit, finance department, procurement, community development, integrated audit, natural resources, wildfire program, administrative performance measures, which is also a countywide focus, the finance transient lodging tax, and then road department, combined integrated and services to outside agencies audit. So I just want to talk a little bit about impacts over the past year and why we have only 2 audits completed and so many remaining on our list. As we discussed in December, I think it was, we did an audit of public health and found that some human resources data that we were relying on wasn't reliable, and public health rightfully brought that to light, and so we had to retract parts of that audit. But right now, that's a pretty significant part of when we do integrated audits that we really can't do reliably right now until we get in to human resources and get a better understanding about how they are tracking data and entering data and how much we can rely on that data. There's also been a lot of audit staff turnover. So we've had we've had 3 people leave and training up 3 people. Megan's here now. I'm hoping that'll go well, but it takes a lot of time to do the recruitment and then also to do training and get someone up to speed. So that takes a big impact. Another issue that is just that, we under budgeted the hours on the houselessness audit, that it was just too big of an issue that touched a lot of different areas of the county. And so, so that there's been a lot of time on that one. Another impact on my time has been just these discussions, which we just had about the audit committee, but just talking a lot about scope, access, and oversight of the audit function. All of those discussions take time and they take away from my ability to focus on audits. And then the other impact that we need to discuss, that other impact on the work plan, is that there will be 2 elected office transitions to do at the end of the year. We know there's 2 people retiring, Bill's retiring, and then the assessor, Scott, is also retiring. So that kicks off 2 transition audits. So these are my proposed changes to the work plan. One is to take off the human resources recruitment and retention audit. I think that was something that was actually rolled over from before I came, but kind of came out of the COVID period when there was a real, the county was having more difficulty with recruitment and retention. And that hasn't been as much of an issue lately. So I think it's one of the, I think it has a lower risk profile than it did when it was initially put on the plan. I'm proposing to take off these 3 integrated audits. Like I said, we can't rely on the data and the methodology that we've been using. So maybe we can just put a pause on those integrated audits. And then adding the elected assessor transition, a treasurer transition audit, and then a human resources personnel data entry audit in order to get a better understanding of that data. So now it's open to you for discussions. I guess I will say there's 2 proposed motions related to that discussion. So remove recruitment retention and the integrated audits, and then add the 2 transition audits and a human resources audit. But let's have discussions.
As far as removing the items under removal, any of those a lot of risk in any of those areas, do you think?
Definitely. Yeah, I think information technology is certainly an area where you need to be paying attention to risk on. And solid waste, they handle a lot more cash, I think, than many departments. So that's got some risk. And then we haven't been in community development in a while. So that, you know, I mean, they're all good audits and appropriately up for getting attention paid to them. But yeah, we're just sort of waiting on that data reliability issue. And then we also have a lot of other audits on the plans that we can bring.
So
those up as
the data reliability issue, is that being resolved? I mean, I'm not aware what exactly, you know, the issue behind the scenes is that being resolved or worked on, or understanding whether there's a
so there were 2 issues. One was that they were not entering employee evaluations. My understanding is that they had a temporary worker in place who was tasked with that responsibility and just didn't do it. So I think I've been told that has been resolved, but I would like a better understanding of that process and how it worked and why that was given to a temporary worker and no one recognized that was happening. The other issue was that there was a person in public health who had been promoted, and when they were promoted, their access and to the enterprise resource financial system was, I think my understanding is the old permissions were not removed and the new permissions were added, which caused a segregation of duties issue. This was just one example, but I don't know how extensive that is. So that's something to look at.
Mr. Chair. Just want to know that Susan has her hand up and she probably
Oh,
has some
thank
more
you.
information
Yeah,
or would like to comment.
Thanks, appreciate that. Yeah, Susan, go ahead.
Yes, thanks so much for letting me speak. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of that data. We are aware that there was a problem. It wasn't discovered till after the temporary had left. We did correct that problem. So it is something we were aware of at the time. We were down 4 or 5 staff. So we were limited on availability of having permanent staff do that and did have a temp entering that. But as soon as we found out it was an issue, we did resolve those issues, and we do not have temps currently who would be entering that stuff. It is only permanent staff. In addition, I would like to comment, this year we are moving to a different structure for our performance evaluation process, which will eliminate that entry piece from human resources. For the most part, we're pretty quick about entering those. Usually we enter them within 2 weeks of receiving them. It kind of depends upon how many we get at once and how much time we have and availability to do that. But usually the turnaround's pretty quick.
For that.
Oh, go ahead.
And then with regards to the elected officials transition audits, timing of that is really crucial that we do those right away or shortly after the transition.
That's how we've always done it. I do know that Scott wanted to be here or wanted to talk to you all about the potential for that audit, but he's out of the office today.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it would make sense to delay one of those and do one of the high risk audits above or not. I don't know.
I would say not, because it's something that we've always done, and it's good to have an option to talk to Scott before he leaves. So delaying it till after January, and that would also make it less helpful to Tana, who's coming in, if she doesn't have it right away when she comes in.
I think I was just going to speak related to the human resources data entry proposal. As a department head, that just doesn't strike me as a really high risk area. I mean, we track if it's related to specifically the evaluations, performance evaluations, we track those internally as we provide them to human resources. And then my other thought is that department's just coming off of their staffing challenges that are now just getting resolved, coming out of a previous audit. And oftentimes many of these audits touch human resources because there's a component to some of the other audits. And so my thought, and especially with to me, the elected transitions, like Elizabeth said, it's something that traditionally audit does. They're important, and they need to be done timely. So I think it may be good to focus on those two, and not add on the data entry audit.
I don't want to get into the weeds of it too much.
I mean, the transition audits, it seems like they help. Like, it's not just a value of the community, and this is a really value added too. The person coming in who's never really been involved with the county, so those make sense to add on.
Tana was the deputy assessor.
Well, still, well, nice. But it sounds like this is a really value add that they want. We should move off. They may not be high risk, but they need to be high value. Yeah, the recruitment retention totally makes sense. Yeah, it's been on for a long time for COVID reasons. The human resources, the personnel data entry, it is impacting other audits because I guess I have issues like not having that on there if it's impacting the other audits. We've seen issues, so it would give a better understanding of the audit team too, of how it all works when they do the integrated audit, so it adds value there too.
We did make a recommendation to public health, because when this came up, staff were not surprised to hear that the roles hadn't been updated. I'm not talking about the evaluations now, I'm talking about the permissions in the financial system, and said this had been an ongoing issue. We made we try to keep recommendations specific to the department. So we made a recommendation to public health to continue monitoring and to communicate to human resources the extent of the problem. And they declined to do that and said, well, it's not really our job to keep an eye on human resources. But it is, I think it's a bigger problem than just the one-off. But I don't know, and that's why we did an audit.
So I guess just looking at this 450 hours for that. And then it's if you do the information, community development and solid waste, that's 450 hours. Right. And so just balancing is which is more important, I guess. And I don't have a super strong opinion, but I'm just noticing the hour, like the timing of the hours needed to do those audits.
I would say we're most of the risk.
Right.
And a lot of your work would be actually just looking at the data yourself, not impacting staff.
Hand raised again.
Susan, again, yeah.
Sorry, just a couple other things. I just wanted to say that if we were to move towards having the audit in HR, I think it's important to take into consideration that we're still not fully staffed. We have just recently lost another person. And so we're also trying to finish up 3 stages of wage equity. We're currently bargaining for contracts. We're moving to a different help desk system. We're also part of the integration for time and attendance, and we have a big part of that. So if we are going to move towards that option, I would prefer if we would wait until at least early 2027, because I will not have any staff that can assist with this process at this time.
And I'll say both with my county administrator hat and my ex officio hat on for this committee, I 100% support Susan's recommendation. There is the issues are very real. We are in the process of these bargaining, these contracts is very, very time consuming. I expect a couple of them will continue into the next fiscal year. As much as I would hope that they would all be done this month before the start of the new fiscal year, that's not likely. And as you said, at least until 2027, at some point in 2027 to start that.
How's that timing work if it was moved into like March 2027? The timing work okay?
Moving up. Okay.
I think I'll just weigh in again, having been in that same situation and assigning permissions within Munis and approving who has the rights to approve what. It's also something we work closely with finance on as we determine who should be approving and at what levels. And in my experience, we haven't had issues with this assignment of duties, or we'll do a test run, double check it as a few invoices go through and review how it goes. So I guess with human resources as well, they're still responding to previous audit findings and addressing those and with the staffing. I guess in my view, I just wouldn't support having that audit as part of the work.
Yeah.
If you had reached out to me like a week ago to touch base on some upcoming audits, et cetera, and I'd be happy to do that. I'm wondering if the 200 hours that you've assigned to this treasurer transition audit may be more than what's needed. And I think we might be able to achieve some time savings there by having that discussion and talking through kind of what the overall scope of that audit might look like. So there might be, in my mind, that might be overly.
I think that's true. I think this is conservative. I think I'm still keeping in mind that I'm still onboarding Megan.
Sure, I
and,
understand.
other audits might take more, so. I hope that, and I think we have a pretty good model of the last treasurer transition audit, and
Yeah.
it's a smaller one because it's just you don't have a lot of staff, so.
Exactly. So there may be some time savings there that we'll be able to realize out of that process.
Other thoughts on? So the question is the person, the data entry. Hard to do that. 127.
Like, you did the next 2-year plan.
At least, go ahead. Their hand up again, there is,
Jody.
Jody.
Jody, go ahead, Jody, I can't.
Am I like right in your way
I
or
can't,
what?
no, it's just my eyes, it's my old eyes, it's all this.
So by Megan.
It's not your fault. Yeah, Jody, go ahead.
Do we have almost like a waiting list of items to add to the work plan, right? Is that maybe a spot for the HR personnel data? We have a lot of items already on the work plan, and as Elizabeth mentioned, with other kind of challenges, staffing and whatnot, it's already a lot to get through anyway. So is there kind of a back burner that this one could be placed on and not officially added to the work plan?
Yeah, I think it could be incorporated into the risk assessment for next time.
I think that makes sense based on some of the things that, Susan has said and things that Elizabeth is willing to do. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So taking that off.
Yeah. Putting it on the
Back
burner. Proverbial back burner.
And do we replace it with other things? Since it's.
I think hearing that we could possibly save some time on the treasurer transition, that we could do that. We probably should do that, but I'd want to hear from Elizabeth on that. She's the one that has to carry the weight.
I would say the other ones that we're removing, one is a human resources one, so if their availability is an issue, I think we should still be taking that one off. And I also think it's a lower risk than we maybe initially thought it was. The other integrated audits, I don't think we should do until after we do a review of the human resources data.
Okay.
So with what's left on the list, if we,
So it's.
so we would be removing.
It's still an ambitious list.
I was gonna say, this looks ambitious. Do you have any follow-ups in
There's
there
plenty
too?
there.
Because even if we remove all that you said and then not add that HR. And then
So
you have
we
the
still, so the
two.
next one would be the finance department procurement. Still the natural resources, wildfire, the performance measures, the lodging tax.
I feel like you have a long list still.
Yeah, she does.
And like, do you have follow-ups timed in there too?
And then there's also follow-ups.
I think it is probably. I think we should stick with the removal and just add the two transitions. And then just make sure that we look at that, and then especially if they are changing process, then we put it on the next audit plan so we can test that and then get the integrated audit. Yeah, because you have your list is pretty big with follow-ups.
It's confusing me, so there's so much there. Okay. Yeah. Fine with that.
We need to make a motion to remove the first top four, and then a motion to add the two transitions. Is that what we?
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Do you want it in two motions?
I don't think it needs to be in two motions.
Sure.
So be it. Or
Okay, I move to remove the human resource recruitment and retention audit, the information technology integrated audit, the community development integrated audit, and the solid waste integrated audit. And to add the elected assessors transition audit and the treasurer transition audit.
I'll second that.
Eliminating the last one.
Yes.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion approved. On to the next item. The internal audit report. Yeah, all right, perfect.
So, we don't have any new reports completed, but we have, the county alcohol sales audit follow update. And so I'd like to welcome Jeff for coming. He's the new director of the
Time of the year coming up, right?
Busy day. We're ready to rise up, opened the doors an hour ago, so it's a lot going on out there right now. It's good.
Okay.
So a little bit of background, so the reason we initiated this audit was that the county fair had changed the way that it sells alcohol. In the past, there was a regular staff person who managed the program. They hired temporary workers to actually do a lot of the sales, but it was managed within house. Now they contract with a vendor. It's called Oregon Beverage Services. Oregon Beverage Services to sort of to do all of the things. So they help to design the alcohol program. They tell the county what to order. They facilitate it as the sales are happening, and then they compensate. They pass on some of the profits to the county at the end of the day. So why did the county change from one process to another? During COVID-19, the county fair was canceled, and the county was left holding some inventory of alcohol and recognized that it was a risk for them to be having this inventory. The primary staff person who was responsible for that program retired. They had some other responsibilities as well related to the catering program. They were having trouble finding a person who had all of those skills to take that person's place. Another reason to change is there was a change in style in how these kind of events sold alcohol. So previously the county used sort of a beer garden style where all of the alcohol sales were within a small area, and you could carry alcohol around the event. And now the trend is to have more dispersed alcohol sales for a variety of reasons. I think it increases sales, but staff had noted that having people concentrated in an area where the only activity was to drink would cause fights, and so that it wasn't a good model. They didn't like it. And then also it became harder to hire temporary staff after COVID-19. So we did look at the program, and we found mixed results. This is showing sort of the last year of the old program in 2019. The county netted about $128,000 on alcohol sales alone, but the return on investment of 52%. In 2024, they netted a higher amount, $164,000. But the return was lower, so the sales were significantly higher and the county's profit decreased. So we made some recommendations.
And those numbers are from 24 then?
Yeah, from 24.
So we don't have 25's numbers yet?
Well, this was at the time of the audit, I didn't have 25.
Oh, that's right. There's 25. Okay. Thank
For
you.
us non-accountants in the group, is that 2024 net number, how does that compare to 2019? Dollar figure. In other words, 52% of 128,000 versus 38% of 164,000.
I can't do the math that quickly.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, you're saying that the actual gross was not that much higher.
The dollar amount.
So I got it here, with the calculator. So 127,699 at 52% is 66,403. And the 164,096 at 38% is 62,356.
That is, I'm sorry, the numbers in green are the net profit to the county, so the 52% would be on the gross amount.
Yeah.
So shouldn't it be higher?
Right.
Higher?
Based on a percentage of gross sales, correct?
Yes.
The way the contract's written.
So overall, status is that there was a leadership transition, which set back implementation of the recommendations. So Jeff Hines resigned in September, I think.
25.
Of 25, and the audit was released in March of 25. And then it took a while to get a new person on, and I think Jeff started in February. Yeah. So I think like one of the very first things you got was this audit follow-up in your role, so.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, I tried to start you earlier.
He did.
You know, I was gonna comment on
Yeah,
that.
you tried.
That's a you problem, not us problem.
So we had made 3 recommendations. The first one was related to that the county couldn't demonstrate program success, and the results that we looked at were mixed. So we recommend the county set up an evaluation program to understand what their goals and objectives are related to the alcohol sales, and then to do regular evaluations related to that, whether that was having an in-house program or looking at other contractors. And the status there is that they're intending to see how it goes for the 2026 fair and then evaluate it after the fair. The next finding was that we noted that there was a lot of risks within how the contract was run. There was a lot of role confusion. There was money kind of going back and forth. The county staff actually held on to blank checks that were of the other business and could write checks for them. It wasn't really clear who was responsible and what kind of internal controls they were required to implement throughout this process, throughout receiving inventory, through conducting sales, and then through compensating the county at the end. So we recommended that the Fair and Expo consult with both their vendor and county council to evaluate the risks within the program as raised in the audit, and then to design a program that had fewer risks. And like the previous one, the status update is that they are intending to take a look at how it goes in 2026 and then potentially conduct that evaluation after. And then the final one is related, but more related to inventory controls. There were, again, role confusion between the Fair and Expo staff and the contractor over who had control of alcohol, who was responsible for any lost inventory. So we recommended developing stronger inventory controls and including a system to document ownership transfers and when inventory transferred from one party to the other. And as in the other one, they having plans in place to create new controls after the 2026 fair. They did submit a new contract and agreement between the Oregon Beverages Services and the Fair and Expo. The changes didn't actually address a lot of the risks that were outlined in the audit. So if we were to see this be the way the county wanted to move going forward, we would want to see a more formal acceptance of risk. So our next steps is to continue following up on the status of these recommendations. The way it works is it won't be included in the global follow-up this year. I kind of touch each of the audits once a year, but then it'll be in the 2027 follow-up. And that is.
I just want to thank the audit staff for the audit, and it turned out to be great timing. When the audit came out, it was kind of right around when Jeff Hines was transitioning. Nick Whitney and I also had just moved departments around, and I think they ganged up on me and they said, "Hey, why don't you take Fair and Expo?" I said, "Sounds great." And then Jeff Hines left. So I ended up being the interim director. That's not my background or field, but when this audit came out, it was very clear that this needed to be looked at. And as Jeff Hines left and I talked to him, he said, "Well, you know, we decided to contract out with Oregon Beverage Service for these reasons. And they were very good business reasons." And then as we went through the recruitment process and hired a new director, one of the first conversations Jeff and I had is, okay, we're contracting this out, but I'm not sure if that makes most sense, or we should bring it in-house. Here are the pros and cons. Here's what Jeff Hines said. Here's what the audit said. You know, why don't you evaluate in your first year, evaluate this process and then decide whether or not you want to continue with Oregon Beverage Service or take it back in-house. The contract with Oregon Beverage Service ended in December of last year. So we worked to extend the contract an additional year to give that time, give the new director time to evaluate. But also I made sure that when that new contract was signed, that there was a 30-day out clause for either side. So I wanted to give the new director as much flexibility as possible in case they determined in June, July, August, September, like, hey, we want to end this contract. But the audit ended up being great timing because I think it's a good resource for Jeff, and I want to give him a chance to make any comments as well.
Jeff, yeah, please. I am not new to this kind of conversation. New to the formal audit process, but not new to making major business decisions associated with how you function. And this is a classic case of functionality of in-house resources versus out-of-house resources, which a lot of department heads probably have to choose. Is there a service that can be provided outside the walls that will deliver the same kind of quality service and return on investment, or is it best to do it in-house? And management has to go through a process using their expertise to do so. So I understand my predecessor's thought process through it. I understand my own. I've actually had to done this very question before at the Portland Rose Festival specifically. I'm familiar with this contractor because this contractor has done business with me directly for the record at Portland Rose Festival. Well, several years ago. It's apples and oranges as it relates to the business question at hand. So I'm well versed to understand the pros and cons of this decision and ultimately make a recommendation what's in the best interest from a fiduciary standpoint to Deschutes County. My not challenge issue is that I just took over and I'm daily operations and all those things. So as this sits on the desk and conversations with Susan, the reality of it is, my timeline of solving this question wasn't 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. It was getting through the fair and the end of July. Continuing operations because we still have events that we use the service, not just our own fair, and a timeline of fall to go through, and will be my process is according to the audit is to have clearly clarify the process, not just what I think is best, but go through and clarify and provide documentation of the decision-making process. So comfortable with that, and ultimately confident that I will evaluate the program, the contractor, and will use my best professional judgment to make a recommendation and to move forward to address all these. I'm pleased that Eric's leadership did do a contract addendum. On paper, it does provide some better context than the prior one, for sure. It's just a matter of following the checks and balances of that, and you have to have adequate staff to do the checks and balances. And we're, I don't want to, I heard it in the first 30 minutes here, there's some short staffing as well just at the Fair and Expo, specifically a person responsible for managing overall food and beverage. So that position was never filled specifically. So and left at current staff to kind of manage. So that's also part of the equation. So
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, when Jeff Hines left, the food and beverage manager retired. And Jeff Hines said he was going to, had he stayed on, he was going to kind of change it a little bit, but have like a food and beverage coordinator. When I was interim director, I just kept that option open. And that was another thing that I asked Jeff Curtis to look at and say, look, you have a vacant position. Whether or not you want to fill it and do food and beverage in-house or do it differently. I don't know what the answer is, but I want to make sure that you have maximum flexibility.
Appreciate that.
Because the last thing I wanted to do is, as an interim director, without experience in the field, hire a new food and beverage manager, and then Jeff starts, I'm like, hey, good news, I hired this person, and he says, well, I would actually would have done it differently. I would have contracted it out, or I would have hired somebody different. So when I was interim director, both of those pieces, I kept things status quo on purpose so we could have the professional come in and arrange it as determined fit.
I'll add one more comment and then open it up for question. So I've done both sides of this model as it relates to the first recommendation. I've hired a company to do it for an event and manage that company. I've also did it completely in-house, which is most recently up at the Alaska State Fair. You're owning the liquor license, owning the process, owning the inventory, owning the staffing, and also owning the risk associated with that comes with it. So I see both sides. My job is to evaluate and what's best for this particular.
Comparing those two, which one did you feel was more beneficial? Because honestly, we have never had a food person at our county fairgrounds. I've been here for 8 years. It's been, I'd say, pretty disgusting the whole time. And we lose a lot of business because we don't have a decent caterer working on our dime. So we have to bring in people in order for people to actually want to go there and eat. I see it constantly. So if we could put something together, it would be fascinating if you could pull that off.
Yeah, that's the task at hand, to evaluate both. And I've done both. Food's a little different than beverages.
Right.
And I want to be clear about that. There are different disciplines, different skill sets, different contractual providers, although some could say they both do it. The company that we currently have specializes, that's all they do. That's all they do. And their contract and their list of events are vast, specifically across the state of Oregon. So, but food's a little bit different skill set and discipline associated with managing food. Comes with risk in the house, comes with risk out of the house, and that, you're right, that's my job to make a recommendation on what's best.
Well, the good news is we just had over 200 applicants for a job in the county, 200.
That's great.
So maybe people are out there and they're actually going to go back to work.
I have a question on the extension that you made. You mentioned there may have been some change. What was put in that extension? Was it just a pure extension, or did we consider putting at least some? I mean, this is alcohol sales, so that's a kind of a. I am the risk.
Sure.
My risk cat says this is. We could put in, even if it was just a year extension, put in some of these kind of high risky areas into that. Did we put?
On paper, they did. I didn't do this, Eric. And
Yeah, I work with the staff.
There's yeah, you can answer, but there's a whole addendum that was added.
Yeah.
1 year extension.
I haven't looked at it since December, but
They added an addendum that was attempting to kind of address some of those core issues and connection, which is what Elizabeth has mentioned that we did provide.
Who had custody of what?
It's attempting to address some of that, yes.
order and delivery, contractor shall place.
On paper.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Okay, so that's all I'm asking, what's on paper?
There's a difference between on paper and implementation.
And I think there was still, so it outlined, it documented it largely just documented the process as it was happening without really addressing some of the ambiguities. So it said like, yes, Oregon Beverage Services is ordering the alcohol, county now pays for it. And it used to be the county didn't pay for it. They had a blank check. So that's better. The county pays for it, but then it's not clear who receives it. I think it's because Oregon Beverage Services is also supposed to reimburse the county, and then they receive it, but it's not clear like who owns it in the interim of there's still just a lot of back and forth, and Oregon Beverage had some pretty poor cash handling controls. They weren't really following standards that the county would require when receiving cash. Those aren't addressed. There's still this weird, like, Oregon Beverage passes all of the money over to the county, and then the county pays them back a percentage instead of like a concessionaire program. You would expect Oregon Beverage would just pay the county a lower amount. It wouldn't have to transfer back and forth so many times. And then it's also another thing that's just really not clear is like, why does the county have a liquor license, and whose license is all of this being sold under, is another ambiguity that wasn't addressed in the contract.
Sounds like we have an opportunity to address all of that.
Do better.
But we still have to watch how it operates this year, because if there it is, and then of course my thing was you could never find non-alcoholic drinks. I think it's gotten a teeny bit better, but still.
I thought we got a lot better.
Well, I hope so. I mean, a year ago, you couldn't find anything that was,
So back to we talked
Well,
to
I-
the vendor.
yeah, like, please get something. Because we do not need any more fights at the fair, right?
Did the last time you order a non-alcoholic beverage, did we deliver on that?
It seemed like it was a little bit
Is
better.
it better?
Yeah, I mean, I had to like beg for soda water. Like, really? They give me like 4 ounces or something. I'm just like, oh gosh. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate
you're right.
your input and your.
Non-alcoholic beverages.
You gotta have a drink.
Go have one.
Oh, Phil.
Okay. Anything else on that item before we? All right, let's move on. Process and upcoming report.
So, in process, we still have the houselessness audit done. It is mostly done. I just have a few more things to wrap up on assessing some grant programs. I have all the documentation. I just need to run through it. And then the one thing that's been hardest and most complicated is just quantifying the amount that the county is spending on homelessness.
Oh, really?
So I have requests in from various departments, and I just kind of need to crunch the numbers. Then I'll do sort of one more round of checking, and then I'll be able to wrap up field work with that.
Scope of work?
Yeah. So the scope is 3 areas. It is to look at internal county programs, partnerships with both through grants and contracts with providers, and how the county operates as a member of the regional team addressing homelessness. And then the courthouse expansion is wrapping up survey. So Lee and I scheduled a meeting next week to talk about that project's scope and objectives. And then there's a link to the status report for that for your information.
Anything else there? Other discussion items, administrative update. Nick would be.
Great, thank you. And Elizabeth asked me to touch on the changes to the Audit Committee Administrative Support, which I'm happy to do. We had, as you'll notice, Angie Powers is not in the room today. We had an opening in our Human Resources Department, as you heard about from Susan. And she accepted that position. She wanted a different experience, doing a similar position about 50 feet away, in a completely different field. She really wanted that new challenge and experience. And, we all supported her in that transition. Not long after she announced that, our other front office staff person provided her notice of resignation. She'd been with us for quite some time, many, many years. And what that did is that provided us with the opportunity to really rethink our front office as we continue to experience, as Robert can attest, and we all know from finance and budgeting, the increasing inflationary pressures, personnel, everything is the costs are increasing across the board on media continuously, it seems like, with other local governments in particular. So we thought, let's take the opportunity to see if we can think about how we do things in the front office and do them differently. So those two vacancies then created the opportunity to combine those into one position, is what we're going to try to do. And so this is, I really want to couch that as this is a trial period. We want to see if Dave was here earlier, legal counsel had capacity to take on, for example, the dog board. Some staff that would manage contracts would then give Angie or Megan, primarily Angie, would give her the information to enter into our Munis, into our financial system for payments, et cetera. That stuff is now going to remain with that staff. So as they do the accounting on that and whatnot, they just enter it themselves directly. And then when it comes to committees, for example, I'll just dive into this committee directly, rather than providing the support for ordering the lunches or taking the meeting minutes, we're having the staff the committee to do that themselves directly. And we're primarily using AI for the meeting minutes, which is working incredibly well for the other committees. So we're using Planning Commission, Board of County Commissioners, Wolf. I can't think of all the pieces of it. Deprivation and Financial Assistance Committee. There's a whole long thing that goes with the Wolf Committee, the Cannabis Advisory Committee. So we're using AI very, very effectively. That may mean, however, that your meeting minutes might look different, that you see that come back to you. A lot of times it can just be a direct transcript, but that's not really the intent of the meeting minutes. That's often a summary.
Be effective for this
It
meeting.
should be happening. It's probably happening now, I'm guessing.
The last minutes were the old fashioned, the old way, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I can just share, like for our Wolf Committee, Jen Patterson, our strategic initiatives manager, it would take her hours and hours to prepare those minutes based on the meeting, because she didn't have the staff support for that initially. Now it takes her less than 30 minutes to review those, because of the committee and they're approved. So in any event, those are some of the efficiencies we're trying. Part of it, we're also automating for example, our entire contract circulation for review and approval process. So that doesn't, we're hand off the folder. Okay, Nick, now that this is circulated to legal, now we bring it and hand it to you. It's just, we're automating that circulation and review, which is great. So there's a lot of things we're trying to do to save very, very significant resources as we try this. I have to say that again, we're trying it. We don't know if we're going to have the support we need for a 5-member board of commissioners. Right now, our 3 commissioners don't require many resources. They are very self-sufficient. They take care of a lot. We provide some of the.
Can I say something?
Please, yes.
Yes, the other day I called Danielle Bethel to find out about roadside stands in Marion County. It was an issue that I'd been asked about. I called Danielle, she goes, yes, Patty, we had this, we did this, blah, blah, we've taken care of it. You know, like the taco stands out there that are unpermitted. Well, she goes, I'll have my assistant send you that information. Within 5 minutes, her assistant sent me the information. I thought, oh my gosh, if it would be, I mean, Brenda does a million things, but she actually has a legislative assistant.
Yeah, Marion County Commissioners do. They each have their own.
Yes.
Each commissioner has their own assistant.
Unbelievable, like how efficient.
We don't have that. And so if that's something that the new board would
I'm sure they're gonna want 3, right? Each.
choose to go down, then we'll
That's money, right?
we'll explore how to fund it. That's exactly right.
Like, oh my gosh.
So we just don't know. We don't know if we'll have the staff necessary for a new board when we have 4 new commissioners that are learning their positions, the jobs, et cetera. Whereas our current board, everybody's been there for at least 5.5 years. So the commissioners know.
You know, we have
ins
to
and
do it
outs,
ourselves.
all that kind of stuff.
We're not gonna waste your money.
Not that our staff will help prepare a letter for our commissioners, things of that nature that take generally just a few minutes. But we'll see how it works. So in any event, that will have, and we appreciate Elizabeth and Megan diving in and taking on the AI for the meeting minutes. And then I assume somebody probably ordered the food that probably wasn't Brenda this time. So there's just some of those basic tasks that do take a bit more time. And it gets into what Elizabeth was talking about, of some of these other duties take hours away from the audit work. And that's true. And we're experiencing that across the department, but we're hoping to be more efficient and we'll see how it works. Eric, do you have anything else from admin to share? That was the extent of what I really had. Whitney would be here, but she's off today.
We're also automating like our special event permit process.
Oh, yes.
Track driver's licenses. So we're trying to use smart sheets and automation. Different things like that.
Obviously, in times of declining resources, you have to be innovative and try things. You have to do it with less. That's just the way it is.
Oh, yeah, I listened to all these farmers the other night and they were saying how they've automated the wine, they've automated so many things. It is unbelievable with robots, et cetera.
Yeah. Brave new
'Cause,
world.
Well, overtime isn't working. It's really, it's a major nightmare for their farms.
It really is. Yeah. Okay, anything else?
No, thank you.
Any other comments about that? All right. Meeting schedule.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer up to you if you, it was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we had a whole lot of audits. And so we decided to go to meetings every other month because we weren't making it through our agenda. We're doing better now and just wanted to know if people were interested in going back to quarterly meetings instead of every other month.
So what we were doing before is early.
Yeah.
I think in light of everything else too, that makes sense.
I agree.
Yes.
So do we need a
Do
motion?
we need a motion to do that or?
I will move to go to quarterly meetings.
Second it. Aye. Motion and a second to move the meetings quarterly. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Okay, so make that effective now, so we meet in September instead of August.
September instead of August, yeah. So I'll send out, you say the dates for everyone. The last thing is just notice for you all, maybe about 3 weeks ago, Angie had sent out to your Deschutes County accounts a new Zoom link. And it probably may have seemed funny, like it may have even seemed spammy. But what that is we moved to Zoom for Government. And it gives us a little bit more control over who participates in our meetings. So if you are going to be remote, if you could go back to that link and use that link, that'll automatically allow you to come to the meeting as a panelist. So that's what that is about. That's my reminder to you all.
How does AI work with our minutes? Are they? It's being recorded, and then the AI, it gets fed through AI. So, like, if I make a motion, do I need to say my name?
It generally will figure out your name. I mean, what you do is.
What else is it figuring out about me?
Have you read your text messages when it takes over? Like, what a nightmare.
What you do is you upload existing minutes and say, here's samples, and then it'll generate minutes, and then you read them, and you say, that's too long, can you shorten it? And so it's an iterative process. And then you kind of dial it in, and it still takes review.
You have to add them in sometimes.
Yeah, I use it
I've actually
for my job, and it's pretty cool.
The example that Whitney had shared with me was of a meeting that was fully remote. And so everyone called in from their own account. So it knew who was speaking every time. I'm a little worried that as we speak over one another or engage in conversation, it's going to be pretty difficult, and that might take significant amount of time on my part. So I don't know if that means the minutes will have less detail or we'll just have to see. I've never seen it, so I don't know how it's going to
It
look.
definitely helps if especially if you don't have names in the agenda, if the first time we speak, we do
And I guess at the meeting, kind of need to be cognizant of that and try not to talk over each other, try to.
All on that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see how it goes. Okay. Anything else for the good of the cause? I think that's the end of our agenda. Okay. Hearing none, let's adjourn at 1:39.
What's the date in September? Do you know?
It would be the second Friday.
Okay, geez.
I'll say, see if we can find time to get together.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have said anything if I would have known AI was simply recording me today.